Have another bathroom to do here. This is a master bathroom, and it's going to have a limestone travertine type tile. It's actually called Durango. On the floor is going to be 16 by 16, and on the walls is going to be a combination of 6 by 12 and 12 by 12s, with the border above the vanity, the jacuzzi area, and also a border in the shower stall. And there's going to be a combination of 12 by 12s and 6 by 12s in this area here. So the walls are being waterproofed, and I've installed this mud over the copper pan. Here in New England we still use copper pans, and what I normally do after this mud has set for a couple of days, I give it a coat of waterproofing. Here I'm using HydroBan by Laticrete, and that's just to prevent water penetrating into the mud. I'm not sure that everyone does that, but that's a step that I do include. And when you install these tiles on the wall, you want to make sure you use a polymer modified thinset, and you got to try and get these walls as flat as possible, because this running bond or brick joint, if the walls aren't flat, you get a lot of lippage. So you got to be very careful to make sure that you get it as flat as possible. And the grout line is very narrow here. They're a 1/16 of an inch. Those blue horseshoes are 1/16 of an inch rigid spaces. And then so you use a polymer modified thinset for installing the tile in the shower stall. And as you can see on the bottom part here, we've got the 6 by 12 running bond, and then we have a little pencil chair rail. Then we got this mosaic type border on top, and then another chair rail on top of that. Now I use all these little wedges to make sure that as I go along, to make sure all the spaces stay more or less the same. And then on this stone here on the shower, because it's a natural stone, the edges can be a little rough. So what I usually do is I get a polishing pad, and I polish the edges so you have a nice smooth edge for the finished tile. And if you don't do that, then the edge of the tile can look kind of rough. So when you do that, you want to pick out a tile that's got a nice, full edge, because these tiles are actually got a lot of holes in them. And what happens is when they fill them, as any voids, they fill them, and then they polish them down. These are actually it's a hone finish. It's not a high gloss finish. So a lot of these tiles on the backs have a lot of voids. So when you install them, you want to make sure you back butter them and fill all those voids. And when I do the shower, and this is the seal that I'm using, it's a 511 impregnator by Miracle. It's a very good high quality sealer, and it does a really good job of sealing these tiles. If you don't seal it, it'll just absorb the water because they're very porous. And on the floor, it's got the 1 inch, or actually like 3/4 inch mosaic tiles. Now on the floor here, I'm using the Schluter Ditra. It's a uncoupling membrane, and when you put it down, the way I usually do it is I cut the whole thing in, and then I roll it back a little bit at a time, and I cement it down. Now you put this down onto plywood with a polymer modified thinset. And first you dampen the floor, because if you don't dampen the floor, the plywood will just suck the moisture right out of the thinset. You don't want that to happen. This is the trowel I'm using. It's 11/64 by 11/64. This one made specifically for the Ditra. If the notch is a little bit big, it doesn't really matter, but you just want to make sure you don't use too big a trowel or too small a trowel. So first you use the back side of the trowel and key the thinset in, and you flip around and use the notch side of the trowel, and this is the kind of coverage that you want to get when you've pushed the Ditra into the thinset. And so you go ahead and you do the whole thing, and what I do is smooth it down with a wooden trowel, make sure it gets really embedded into that thinset. And on top of the thinset here, we want to use an unmodified thinset. The Ditra down, then you can install the floor. Now, like I said, on top of the Ditra, use an unmodified thinset, and use for large tiles. I'm using a 1/2-inch square notch trowel, and also back buttering the tiles with the flat side of the trowel. And I'm using the Tornado leveling system here, and it does a pretty good job of eliminating the lippage between the tiles, especially with the large format tiles. The bigger the tile, the harder it is to get rid of the lippage. So this leveling systems do a pretty good job of helping with that. And the way you get the clips out from underneath is you just hit it with a rubber mallet along the direction of the grout line, and the clips just break off, and they pretty much always break off below the grout line. So once you've done that and the floor is set, the whole thing needs to be sealed. So like I said, this stuff is very porous, so it needs to be sealed before you grout it. Not after you grout it, but before you grout it. Shower stall here, and the floor is done. And what I have to do next here is above the vanity, there's going to be a border with a chair rail, and at the jacuzzi there's going to be some tile, and the border, and under the window there's going to be some 6x12 tile as well. So the vanity top and the top of the jacuzzi area are both marble, very soft and delicate. It's the same material that is on the curb there and at the threshold. So before you do anything in these areas, you always want to cover it with some cardboard or something to protect it, because it can scratch very easily. There's thinset is what I'm using, and there's sand in the thinset, so it doesn't take a lot for some thinset to get on the marble, and then you scrape it along with something and you scratch it. So you just want to make sure you cover everything before you do it, so you don't damage the surfaces that you're tiling on top of. So anyway, this is the whole bathroom done, and all grouted and caulked. Anywhere there's a change of plane, it needs to be caulked. If you don't caulk it and you grout it over a period of time, it's just going to crack, and you're going to have to come back and caulk it again anyway. So you just might as well do it at the time that you install the tile. So everything is sealed, everything is caulked, everything is grouted, and this is another bathroom that's done. Travertine, Durango, limestone tile. Needs to be sealed before you grout it, and then periodically it needs to be sealed again, because the sealer doesn't last forever. And it's very nice looking bathroom, but when you install natural stone products, you just want to make sure that you do the maintenance that needs to be done to keep it looking beautiful for many years. So that's another bathroom done.